John, the GAA has today published COVID-19 guidelines on a safe and phased return to Gaelic Games. Just how positive a milestone is this for the association?
I think it's a very positive day for us. From the get-go of this problem within our country, we've always had the health and well-being of our membership as our priority, and we continue to hold that as our priority. But in light of the changed environment in which we're living in at the moment and the decrease in the influence of the pandemic throughout the country, and with advice from our own advisory committee and linking in with the Department of Sport, we're quite happy to actually publish a roadway back to actually playing our games.
Can you give us a bit of an insight into just how much work and deliberation by the COVID-19 advisory group has gone into this document?
This group that we put together, made up of people with a background in health and safety, obviously GAA administrators and medical people, have come together within the last 4 weeks and have put this document together. I think if people view the document, they will see the comprehensive nature of it. It includes the whole health and safety aspect, as well as an actual plan for the return to play and training for players. And we've been very appreciative of all those volunteers that came on board our committee to actually deliver. We had 4 of our own team doctors, and we had Professor Mary Hogan from Cork, as well as our own health and safety committee people. So I think they've done a fabulous job, a huge amount of time and effort gone into it, and I'd just like to acknowledge all that and thank everybody that was involved.
Yeah, as you say, it's a very detailed document. How important is it that all GAA volunteers read it?
I think it's very important that people do, but in particular I think it's very important for the leadership in all our clubs to read the document, and for those involved in the management of teams, because it's particularly directed at them in terms of a safe return. It involves making sure our facilities are safe for people to actually arrive back on, and making sure the environment in which our teams return to train and then to play is also a safe environment for them. So there's a responsibility resting on the officers within our clubs and those managing our teams. But we've always been conscious of the level of responsibility we were going to put on those people, and we held back up until now. But such is the trust that we have in those people, and such is their behaviour up to this now, I feel we can actually loosen the leash a little and let that responsibility devolve itself down throughout the organisation.
Yeah, the GAA pitches are due to reopen in phase 3, which is scheduled currently for June the 29th. Managing that safely is going to be quite an undertaking, isn't it? And I suppose there's going to have to be significant buy-in and effort from everyone involved in all clubs.
Absolutely. Look, up to this I think people have behaved with responsibility, and I think they need to continue to do that. I think we can make further progress on our roadmap if people behave responsibility and comply with the guidance that we're actually giving them within the document. And if they apply the principles that we're actually advising should be applied, I think we'll continue to make further progress down our roadmap.
Every club is going to need to appoint a designated COVID supervisor. That's going to be a role with a lot of responsibility, isn't it? And what assurances can you give clubs that the COVID supervisors will be supported with adequate training and mentoring along the way where required?
We're quite aware that this carries a lot of responsibility, and if clubs feel they need more than one COVID supervisor within the actual club setup, it's their prerogative to actually do that. We would encourage the chairman and secretary of every club to engage in a training programme that we're putting in place online for everybody to do. This training programme will be available to mentors of teams as well, because not alone will the clubs appoint a COVID supervisor, but each team will be expected to have a member of their management team or their mentoring team trained up in this and act as a COVID supervisor for that particular team. So with the online training that we're going to put in place in the next week or two, we hope that people will engage in that. It will be monitored, so people will have to sign in, and there will be a record kept of those that actually do the training, and we will be keeping an eye on that to be sure that there is sufficient training being taken on by the membership to drive on with this. If people continue to work and cooperate with us as they have up to this, and I think that has to be acknowledged, I think we can make progress further down the road.
If everything does go as scheduled, club competitions will resume from Friday, July 31st. If those, is how those club competitions are to be structured in a timely fashion up to each individual county?
Absolutely. What we have actually done is we have set a time frame in which counties can actually run their competitions, but the style and organisation of those particular competitions will be down to the actual decision making of each county board in its own patch. Every county is different in the context of the strengths of teams in different competitions and the number of teams, so it wouldn't be for us here centrally to dictate to any county how they actually run their competitions, whether they have a league element, whether they have a championship element or whatever. And I'm quite sure once they get the championship programme out of the way, they will then in turn put further games in place for the actual teams to play. But no, very clearly the decision making on the structure of the competitions within every county will rest with the county board of each and every one of the individual ones.
Intra-county competitions are currently scheduled to take place from October 17th. Presumably decisions on how those competitions will be scheduled and structured will be taken at a later date, if we continue to move successfully through the phases.
Yeah, in fairness, people have been very caught up in working on the documents to get the return to training and the return to play. But in the next number of weeks, our CCC committee, now that they have a clear starting date and a clear time frame in which to work, they can now look at the style and context of the actual competitions that we run. And hopefully in the next number of weeks we will have that out in the public domain to let people see a clear map of how we see our inter-county competitions running for the rest of the year.
Presumably the roadmap to return isn't set in stone. It'll be subject to how successfully we move through the planned phases, as well as ongoing directives from the government and health authorities.
Absolutely. As we said from the beginning, we would always take our advice from the government and health authorities. We would always be in line with their roadmap, and we will continue to do that in all the progress that we make throughout this problem. But yeah, we have to be flexible, and as we said in the beginning, we're flexible enough to bring it forward if we can, and we will possibly have that situation if the government move to the next phase and we're able to move to our next phase at the end of June. We will have our grounds back open and we will have people back out training on those grounds in hopefully groups of 10.